Alright, it's been a while since I made a video, but I told myself once the election was over and there was a winner, I would make a video about the election results. And I just feel like there's not a whole lot I can say that hasn't been already said by a bunch of other people. Joe Biden is the winner, no surprise there, and the main reason is because of the coronavirus, because Trump is the incumbent president and the coronavirus is kind of kicking our ass, especially compared to other countries and the way they're handling it. And he's the guy in charge, especially with he got coronavirus, first of all. He in his speeches and the way he talks, he tries to like downplay how bad coronavirus is. He'll even just like lie about certain aspects of it. Not only that, there was that leaked paper that showed that there was like, you know, the government was trying to do this thing. I think it was like give out masks that would have helped, and he blocked it because he thought that by doing that he would like spare Americans like the panic of it or something. It was a boneheaded move, and he was really messing up on that, so it's no surprise that he lost. What is also not a surprise is that this was a close election. It was a squeaker. It's no surprise that it was a close one because Joe Biden is, or was, a terrible candidate. Absolutely awful. They couldn't have picked someone worse than him. He looks like, or seems like he has dementia. He also has a horrible record, especially in the year 2020, where he's very much pro-war on drugs, the prison-industrial complex, and the militarization of the police. He is partially responsible for that himself. And so who else is pro all that stuff? His vice president, which will probably take over at some point during his presidency because he's so old. And on top of that, we also know that he's a puppet. He's a puppet of the oligarchy, of the neoliberal elitists, of the establishment. And people generally don't like that if they're like not some idiot that just gets all their information from the mainstream media. They're aware of all these puppets and they don't like it. But he managed to squeak by. If Bernie Sanders would have run against Trump, he would have had a huge landslide victory. In fact, if Bernie Sanders would have ran against Trump in 2016, he would have won then. So this should have been us re-electing Bernie Sanders, not electing Joe Biden as president. It's absolutely ridiculous and crazy. Which is even more upsetting when you know that the DNC put their thumb on the scale during the 2020 and 2016 primaries. They basically soft-rigged, or maybe even hard-rigged, for all we know, those elections. So it's no surprise that conspiracy theorists out there and Donald Trump think that they also rigged the general election. There is no, by the way, like hard empirical evidence that they rigged the election. Like I said, it's not a surprise that Trump lost. Like, you know, they didn't really have to rig the election if they did. I mean, if it was this close, then maybe they did have to, but I don't think they did. I want to make that clear. I don't think at this moment in time that Joe Biden or the DNC rigged the general election against Trump. I think if they could have done that, they would have won in 2016 with Hillary Clinton. So many people I know, when I ask them who they voted for, most of them say they voted for the lesser of two evils, even if they voted for Trump or Biden. Oh, I gotta vote for the lesser of two evils. A lot of the times they'll bring up like the culture war. By that I mean the rights that the other side might take away from them. Biden might take my right to arms, my right to guns away. Trump might take my right to abortion away, or my right to gay marriage away. You know, I've got to vote for this evil candidate that's terrible because the person they're running against is just so much more evil and terrible. But the thing is, no matter who wins, we get someone who's evil and terrible in the office. That's why I voted third party. And I'm sad to see that the third parties did worse than they did in 2016. Not that they did spectacularly in 2016. I mean, they did better than I think what they had been doing before that. But I was hoping they would at least did as good or better this time around, and they didn't. Maybe there just isn't a good third party that can really get people excited to vote third party. Maybe that's just the case. Maybe we need a new, better third party. That's why I'm got my eyes on that People's Party thing that's like cropping up. I keep seeing. It keeps popping up on my radar that's going to be formed into an actual political party in 2021 and will run a president, they say, in 2024. And to that I say best of luck to them. If they can get something great going, I will support it. That would be awesome. But we'll see. Because it looks like it's hard to get a third party going. Because people are legitimately afraid of the spoiler effect. They don't want to vote for the candidate they like. They'd rather vote for the popular, of the two most popular candidates, the one they hate the least. And the system is like rigged to make it harder for third parties to grow. I mean, they got to get X amount of the popular vote to get like federal funding or on the debate stage. It's really like sucks for them. Not only that, but we have this like, I think it's called plurality voting as the official term for it. But there's other ways that we could be voting. Like instead of just pick one candidate and that's the one you go with, and that creates this spoiler effect. You know, I've been seeing people say that some people say that they would like to see what's called an instant runoff, where you basically rank the candidates, and like if the person you ranked first comes in like last place, then they go to your second choice, and this just kind of keeps going down until like somebody wins. You'll probably find a better explanation for it somewhere else, but I mean, instant runoff probably isn't perfect, but from what I can tell, it's way better than what we do now. Because it's not just important for a third party to be able to win, it's also important for a third party to be a credible threat to winning, so these major parties will be scared that they might lose their place as a major party, and thus, you know, get their act together. Try to represent people. Because the problem is that we don't have any representation. That's why I call it an oligarchy. Because you vote for this guy or you vote for that guy, it doesn't matter, because banks and corporations stick money in their pockets, and they don't listen to you and what you want. That's why we have all these popular policies that don't get passed. Like, I think it was like last time I looked, like 70-something% of Americans want public health care. And neither Trump nor Biden supports it at all. When it comes down to like people voting, then they finally let people in like a state vote to pass whether or not marijuana gets legalized. It gets legalized, but yet the federal government can't do that. It's ridiculous. It's been so insanely long since they raised minimum wage. And so many people want that. Like all these populist, that's why I call myself a populist and these positions populist, because it's what people want, and people aren't getting what they want because your representatives don't represent you. They represent banks and corporations. Call it what you will, crony capitalism, socialism for the rich, but that's what we got now, and that's bad. It's tearing this country apart, and we're just going to get more of it with Joe Biden. And if Trump was reelected, he's not going to do anything about it. He never did for 4 years. He didn't do anything about it, even though he had that populist rhetoric going in. He didn't do anything about it. And then when and on his way out, when he was getting reelected, no populist rhetoric anymore. Not this time. It creates what I call the duopoly of the parties. A duopoly where on like cultural issues they disagree, but when it comes to economic issues they don't. Because it's like when you get a monopoly with two companies. You know what I mean? Like what's it called? Price fixing. Yeah, you got two big companies that control the market, but they're at odds with each other, undercutting each other, and then they make a backdoor deal where we'll just raise our prices to where we would if we were a monopoly and just keep them the same so we're not competing with each other when it comes to price. That's what they're doing. They're like, hey, if we're both corrupt and terrible, then there isn't a non-corrupt party to vote for. And it's super hard with the way things are set up, with the way that we're voting and things like that, for a third party to come up and be a credible threat, that we can basically get away with being super corrupt. And that's terrible. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do. I'll like try to keep my eyes out and keep my ear to the ground to see if there's something we could support or do about this bad situation. But I really don't know what we're gonna do. Like I said, the election results for this general election didn't really matter to me that much. The primary election with Bernie Sanders, that mattered a lot. I hate to say this, but on Super Tuesday, I had like a migraine. I was like, I can't believe Bernie Sanders is going to lose to Joe Biden. Like, the election ends here. Like, here. If he can't beat Biden in the primary, then the general election's not going to really matter that much. I mean, to some people, yeah, the cultural issues mattered a lot to them, so they voted for one or the other. But to me, I have opinions on that sort of stuff. I really do, and there's things that I support, but the biggest issue in my mind is the corruption and doing something about that, 'cause it's bad. It's really, really, really bad. We can get to the cultural issues second. Like, to me, that's in the back seat. Like, they're important, but in the front seat is like corruption and economic issues. But that's just my opinion.